Jackson Radio Show.
Joy, listening to this alarm bell from all these right-wingers and commentators and right-wing commentators, you would think they're ready for a military coup.
Yeah.
We have to disgrace, like the Greek generals or somewhere in Argentina, we have to disgrace the entire U.S. justice system to justify overthrowing it.
Yeah.
What's coming here?
Well, you know, that Washington Post story said that two of Donald Trump's favorite world leaders are Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey and Vladimir Putin. And it does seem that Donald Trump has the tools of authoritarianism down. He's got the dance of authoritarianism down to a science. Step one, claim the investigation of you is a fraud being conducted by enemies of the state. Step two, get your state-run media, your affinity media, to echo that into your base and whip them up into a frenzy against those investigating you. Step three, get the state party, in this case the Republican Party, to echo that from the seat of government and say, wait a minute, the people investigating the president are themselves criminals. Create this feedback loop that creates a feeding frenzy that has now essentially got Republicans claiming that Bob Mueller, probably the most respected member of law enforcement in the last 30, 40 years in the United States, essentially being characterized as a criminal. And then, of course, you got to add that last step, call for the prosecution of your political enemies, in this case, dredging up Hillary Clinton to again call to lock her up. Donald Trump is an authoritarian of the first order, and he's behaving like one.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. That had to be the most amazing clip you've heard in a while. Joy Reid explaining exactly how the left works and then pushing it out. I call it transference, pushing it out against us, against Donald Trump. And what's really funny is if you really pay attention to her premise, you automatically go, whoa, hold on a second. Hold on a second. So here's what she says. She says, Chris Matthews says, why would you disgrace the FBI? That's the premise, that Donald Trump has disgraced them. Did Donald Trump write the tweets that Peter Strzok put out? Or who's the one talking smack about the president of the United States prior to him while he's running? He's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. I can't stand him. We got to make sure he doesn't get elected. And then when he's elected, who are the people that are against him through and through? They say he's stupid, whatever. But they say he's disgracing the FBI. We know Comey lied. We know Mueller and Rosenstein and many other Rosenstein, they are involved in some sort of collusion with Hillary Clinton, and there's crooks all up and down the ladder. But they want to make, in terms of disgrace, what they're doing is they're disgracing Trump and then telling you, no, he's disgracing the FBI. Yeah, because Donald Trump's, that's what he's set out to do. It isn't that they've ensnared themselves in a trap of their own creation. No, it's not that. It's Donald Trump doing it. But here's what I really like. She references the Washington Post, a story, and she says, you got to remember, Donald Trump's two favorite leaders are Erdogan and Putin, effectively two dictators. So a fake news magazine, a fake news periodical, the Washington Post, whose owner, Jeff Bezos, hates Donald Trump, who we've already known. There's got to be at least 3 articles in the last year that the Washington Post has completely lied about, been debunked, if not more. But she says, here's my gospel. The Washington Post said it. Some author, some writer at the Washington Post spoke with Donald Trump, and he says, these are my favorite leaders. I defy you. Find me anywhere. Donald Trump said, those are my favorite leaders. He might have said, Erdogan did this good. He might have said, I admire Putin for doing blankety blank. But there is no serious contextual evidence that he says Putin's amazing or Erdogan's amazing. None. So it's already built on a fraudulent notion, which brings me to the first thing that she says. She says there's 4 elements to the way that you have to gain control. One is you call the investigation against you a fraud. That's what Bill Clinton did when they started talking about Monica Lewinsky and all his affairs. That's what Hillary Clinton did when they started talking about Benghazi and the Clinton Foundation and all of her collusion with the Democratic Party. They say it's a witch hunt. What are you talking about? You can't even believe this. And what did we find out? The DNC was colluding. We found out that the mainstream media was indeed working with Hillary Clinton. We found out that Donna Brazile did feed her the answers, or the questions rather, to the debates with Trump, and on and on. But with Donald Trump, the investigation is he colluded with the Russians. And you know what they found? Absolutely nothing. So when she says the first step is you got to call the investigation a fraud. Okay, so he called the investigation a fraud. But the difference is it is a fraud. What are you hearing? Nothing. And you're not going to. Second thing, state-run media has to echo that fraud into the base. So not only have we already debunked number one, she says state-run media. Now what's funny is she then catches herself and says state-run, and she uses a term I forget, but it was like supportive media, affinity media. Thank you. She says infinity media. That's who's got to perpetrate, got to infuse that fraud into the base and get them frothing at the mouth. So not only is it not a fraud that Donald Trump did not do anything wrong in this, she says if it's infused into the base and gets them frothing at the mouth, well, then that's not a good thing. So the truth isn't a good thing. So she's already on step one, missed the mark, which means everything after that is, of course, of no significance. But then she goes on to say this. The state party has to echo this from the seat of government. And she says that the investigators are the criminals. And then what does she do? She does exactly what I told you she and others would do. They go back to Mueller is unimpeachable. He's the only honest man in D.C. Now, I go back to number one. Investigating a fraud. It's been proven. Donald Trump is not lying when he says, I got nothing to hide from the Russians. Every indicator is that way. But this is what this woman says. Then she goes on to say this, call for the prosecution of your political enemies. Lock her up. Well, the reason why Donald Trump is calling for the prosecution of his political enemies is because they're guilty of high crimes. That's the problem. We've got people who've worked in conjunction with Barack Obama's Justice Department to create a fraud. And now they want everybody to get away with it. They said Donald Trump is colluding with the Russians, knowing that he wasn't, and knowing that they were trying to subvert the will of the people, doing everything they could, every crooked trick in the book in order to keep this man from becoming president. And she says for him to call for the prosecution of your political enemies, that's step 4. Lock her up. Let me tell you, every single one of those points is wrong because of the very first one. Where the investigation of Donald Trump is a fraud. Joy Reid knows this investigation is a fraud. That's why she comes on and she plays the game. The left always tell you what it is that that isn't the truth, or what's true about themselves. And that's called getting ahead of it. They know Donald Trump's done nothing wrong. Now, moving along, here's what I can tell you. I believe all the members of the Obama administration are crooked until proven otherwise. That's what I believe. Obama allowed his minions, mostly Clinton satellites, to run his organization as they saw fit, and his role was to pretend to be president and to get rich, and he accomplished both. And certainly Obama felt confident that he had the right swamp creatures in place when he declared his administration scandal-free. Then he practically guaranteed you that Donald Trump would not become president, and he was wrong on both counts. With Trump's election come these revelations of just how bad government has become, and it's evil, in fact. The Obama administration reeks of scandals. And the latest involving their attempt to tie Trump to Russia is, I say again, the biggest political scandal in American history. We know the FBI is crooked. So now Americans don't know who to trust. But on it was July 29th of 2011, then President Barack Obama announced the nomination of a guy named Michael Horowitz as Inspector General for the Department of Justice. And on March 29th of 2012, the Senate confirmed Horowitz as the Inspector General. Then he was sworn in as the fourth confirmed Inspector General on April 16th of 2012. But since 2015, he's also served as the chair of the Council of Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency. Now, as Inspector General, Horowitz oversees a nationwide workforce of about 450 special agents and auditors. He's got inspectors, he's got attorneys, and then he's got support staff. And I learned from the attorney, I think it was Rosenstein, who said he's got $100 billion budget. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what that means and can he be trusted.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.